Screen is visible, students? Screen is visible?
Yes, sir, visible, sir.
Okay. In the previous class, I was solving problem number 3. I think you have all written problem number 3. This problem number 3, it is similar to problem number 1. Okay, similar to the problem number 1. What I will do is I will give this problem as assignment. All of you write it as assignment. Okay, it is 100% similar to the problem number 1. Okay, so, today I will be starting model number 5. Okay. Model number 5, composite sections. The title of the model is composite sections. Okay. The model number 4, it has got completed for that problem number 3. Okay, it has got completed. Model 5, composite sections. So before going to start the discussion, let me tell the course outcome of this model. Means ability you get after successful learning of this model will be, you after successful learning of this model, you will be able to describe about composite sections, and you will be able to analyze a composite section. Okay, that is the course outcome of this model. Okay, you will be able to describe about composite sections, and you will be able to analyze a composite section for flexure or shear or stresses. Okay. The composite sections, what may be the meaning of composite section? The name itself represents its definition. Composite section, it is the combination of pre-stressed concrete and the reinforced cement concrete. Okay. Instead of not just going for pre-stressed concrete or not just going for reinforced cement concrete, combination of both pre-stressed concrete and the reinforced cement concrete will be utilized for a construction. Then it is called as composite section. Okay, in case of composite section, as I said, it will be a combination of the PSC and RCC. Okay, PSC, combination of PSC and RCC means it is a combination of a pre-stressed concrete and cast in situ concrete. Okay, the pre-stressed concrete elements will be casted in a casting yard and placed onto the site. Okay, and over that pre-stressed concrete elements, the cast in situ concrete will be placed so that a composite section will be created. Okay, so that a composite section will be created. I think you might have seen the construction of the bridges and the flyovers and all. There you can see whatever the girders will be there, no? Girders or the beams, they will be casted in the casting yard and they will be directly placed. Okay, directly placed between the piers, and over that girders, the slab will be casted. Okay, in situ concrete will be placed. Good the audio. Vishal. Vishal, good the audio. Okay. Okay, the precast element will be casted in the casting yard, and over that, and those precast element will be placed between the piers. Over that precast element, if you place the cast in situ concrete for purpose of casting the slab, then it becomes a composite member. Okay, it becomes a composite member. In most of the 99% of the bridges will be constructed with this technology only, the composite sections only. Okay. And these composite sections have got some advantages compared to the normal RCC or the pure PSC construction. Okay, and when we compare the composite sections to that of fully pre-stressed concrete sections or fully RCC construction, then there will be a appreciable saving in the cost. Okay, there will be appreciable saving in the cost. And the size of the precast pre-stressed units can be reduced. Definitely, the size of the pre-stressed elements will be reduced, because if you want to fully go for pre-stressed concrete units, then obviously you need to go for higher sizes. Because of composite section, the size of the precast elements will be reduced. When the size of the precast units reduced, then the ratio of size of precast unit that of whole composite member will reduce. Okay, that is written in the next point. And in case of composite construction, these precast units, the precast units, no pre-stressed units, sometimes they will serve as the formwork as well as support for cast in situ concrete. Okay, the formwork laying will be 70 to 80% of the formwork will be avoided, because the precast units will itself they will itself act as the formwork or the supports for placing the RCC or the cast in situ concrete. That is also one of the advantage. Then the composite members are ideally suited for constructing bridge decks without any disruption of the normal traffic. Without disruption of the normal traffic, the process can be carried out. Then the next advantage what we have is efficient utilization of the material in a composite section. Okay, see, when you take a girder of any bridges, on one side it will be subjected to the compression, and another side it will be subjected to the tension. Especially the top fiber will be subjected to the compression and bottom fiber will be subjected to the tension. At top fiber, we are placing this cast in situ concrete. Okay, cast in situ concrete, that is RCC slab we are placing. Okay, when you place RCC slab over the I girder, it will act as a T section. Okay, combined composite T section, it will act as a composite T section. In that case, whatever the cast in situ concrete we are placing, no, it will have the normal strength concrete is like M30, M35 like that, or maximum M40 concrete we will place for slab. But for PSC minimum grade of concrete we utilize is M40. Okay, M40. And whatever the compressive stresses and the tensile stresses acting on the section, if you place the normal strength concrete as a slab, okay, as cast in situ concrete, then it is more than enough to carry those compressive stresses. And to handle this tensile stresses at the bottom fiber, we should have some higher grade of concrete that will be taken care by PSC elements. Okay, in this way, we can effectively utilize the materials. We can effectively utilize the materials. Means, instead of going for higher grade of concrete for full section, for full slab and the beam, for slab, the normal concrete will be placed, and for beam, the high grade concrete will be placed. Okay, that normal concrete will take care of the compressive stresses. No problem. No need to go for the high grade concrete at the slab level. Okay, and whatever the tensile stresses induced, they will be taken care by the PSC element, which is made up of high grade concrete. Okay, in that way, effective utilization of the material will takes place. Okay, and obviously there will be saving in the cost of construction. Okay, and with respect to this precast pre-stress units, it requires skilled labor. If you want to do the especially for slabs and all, no, they will do the pre-stressing in the site only. At the site only, they will perform the pre-stressing for slabs. Girders they will cast in the casting yard and they will place it. But with respect to the slab, most of the times they will do pre-stressing in the site only. If you do like that, it requires skilled labor and advanced equipments at the site to induce the stresses or pre-stresses into the element. Okay. But instead of going for pre-stressed concrete slab, if you go for normal RCC slab, then it doesn't require any skilled labor. Okay, as like we do the normal RCC slab construction, in the same way we can perform the construction. Okay, that is also one of the advantage. Okay. And one more advantage is we can give some circular openings at the web of the beam. Okay, at the web of the beam, so that the weight, the self weight of the composite section will reduce, which will lead to the economy of the section or economy of the construction. Okay, these are all few advantages related to the composite sections. Then coming to the type of composite constructions, there are 3 to 4 types of composite construction. The first type, what you can see in the first figure is it is a inverted T-beam section. Okay, it is an inverted T-beam section. These girders are there, no? These girders are precast elements, and this is the cast in situ slab. Okay, in this way, it will make a composite section. Okay, it will make a composite section. Okay, it is a composite section with inverted T-beam. Okay, here in the second case, it is a propped construction. I will tell you in detail what is the meaning of propped construction in the next topic. Propped construction means these girders are there, no? These girders are submerged into the thickness of the slab. Okay, these girders are submerged into the thickness of the slab. So when the load acts on the structure, the whole element will behave as a monolithic member. Okay, monolithic member. And in the third case, there are some openings provided. Okay, there are some opening provided where the stresses are less or are near to zero. Okay, especially at the neutral axis. Okay, at the neutral axis, you can see you all know that the stresses will be less or they are near to zero only. At that place, they have given some opening so that some cost of material will be saved, or utilization of the material at that point, that zone will be saved. And the last one, a composite construction with box girders. Okay, box girders. You can see this kind of construction in metro bridges, right? There the box girders will be provided for metro bridges. So these are all few major types of composite constructions. If the question is asked in the examination, there is no much explanation on these things. We need to write very neat sketches. Okay, you need to write very neat sketches. In only 1 or 2 points, you need to explain the things. Okay, this is one. This is the classification of bridges depending upon the type of construction. Okay. And there is one more way of classification depending upon method of construction. Okay, depending upon method of construction. In that, first one is propped method, second one is unpropped method. Okay, propped method and the unpropped method. In case of propped method, In case of propped method, as I said here, in case of propped method, these structural elements are the precast elements are there. No? Precast elements, they will be supported by some other structural elements. Temporary, they will be given with temporary support by the help of some structural elements. After giving temporary support, the cast in situ concrete will be placed. Okay, cast in situ concrete will be placed, and after sufficient and when the concrete cast in situ concrete attains the sufficient strength, this temporary support will be removed. After that, this whole section will act as a monolithic section. It will resist the load as a whole. That is called as propped construction or the propped method. This is important, students, for your examinations. Okay, they may ask you to write about types of construction, and they may ask you to write difference between propped method and the unpropped method. Okay, I hope you all understood. In case of propped constructions, the precast elements will be given with a temporary support. Okay, given with some temporary support with the help of some structural elements. After that, the cast in situ concrete will be placed, and when cast in situ concrete attains the sufficient strength, then this support will be removed, so that the composite section will act as a whole. It will act as a monolithic element. Okay, monolithic element, that is called as propped construction. Then next type of construction is unpropped construction. In case of unpropped construction, these precast elements will be designed in such a way that they will hold or they will resist the placing of cast in situ concrete and placing of the formwork and the labors load. Okay, the constructional loads are there. No, construction loads means the load of the formwork or the load of the labors. Okay, weight of the labors and the equipments, all those things. Okay, these composite these precast elements are designed in such a way that they will carry the load of constructional weights as well as the cast in situ slab. There won't be any separate support given to these elements. Are you getting? There won't be any separate support given to these elements. Okay, these elements are designed in such a way that they will withstand all the constructional loads as well as the weight of the slab over them. Okay, this is called as unpropped construction. And here the elements will not act as a whole. Okay, the composite member, it will not act as a whole, or it will not act as a monolithic section. Whatever the slab load and the lay load on the slab will be there. No? It will be transferred to the girders, and girders to piers to the foundation, like that. Load transfer will be there. Okay, in case of unpropped construction, remember students, this is this concept you need to understand to solve the problems as well. In case of unpropped construction, it will not act as a monolithic. It will not behave monolithically. Okay, whatever the load acting over the slab, it will be transferred to the precast element to the piers to the foundation. But in case of propped construction, it will act as a whole. Whatever the lay load acting on the slab, that load will be carried by the whole composite thing. Okay, as a whole, it will behave monolithically. It will behave and it will handle the load. That is the difference between propped and unpropped construction. Okay, is that clear for you all? Is that clear, students? Any doubts? Reply.
No, sir.
Okay. Now coming to the analysis of stresses in a composite section. Okay, analysis of stresses in a composite section, and you will be solving problems on analysis of stresses. Okay, and there is one or two standard problems that if you are able to understand, the same kind of problems will appear in your examination. Okay, I will be solving one standard problem. Okay, the same kind of problem will appear in your examination. There is no any different variety in, especially in case of composite sections. Okay, then coming to the analysis of stresses, the analysis of a composite member will vary depending upon the method of construction, as I said. Okay, because the load transfer will be different in case of propped construction and unpropped construction. The load transfer will be different. Okay, when the load transfer is different, then the stresses induced in the element will be different. Okay, therefore there is some difference between analysis of stresses when the composite construction is made based on the propped method, and when the composite construction is made based on the unpropped method. Okay, so I'll discuss the analysis of stresses for both the cases. Even the problems will be asked specifically for unpropped or propped. Okay, first we will see analysis of stresses for unpropped construction. Unpropped construction. Okay, when you take composite member, it is a combination of the beam and the slab. Okay, beam and the slab. Okay, it is beam and it is a combination of beam and the slab. Now what we have to do is, when you want to, all of you listen it carefully, because it is required for solving the problems. If you do not understand this, you will get confusions in solving the problems. Okay, understand it clearly. First, I will be discussing the method of analysis of stresses for unpropped case. For unpropped case. Okay, in this the composite member, it will not behave monolithically. Load transfer will be from slab to the beam. Okay, here it will act as a monolithic element. Okay, in your problems there will be a composite section given, and over that he will give some lay load. Okay, first we will concentrate on this beam or the rectangular section. For that we will find the stresses. Okay, the stresses due to the self weight of the member. Okay, stresses due to the self weight of the member, as we used to do in first model or the third model. Same procedure we have to follow to determine the stresses due to the self weight. Okay, see, if you take this T section, no, this composite section, there are stresses induced in different ways. One is stress due to pre-stressing force. Okay, stresses due to the pre-stressing force. Second one is stress due to self weight of beam, precast beam. Okay, this one, stress due to self weight of precast beam. Third one is stress due to self weight of, there is one more element lying over the beam, that is slab. Stress due to self weight of slab. Okay, fourth one, stress due to lay load. Okay, stress due to lay load. These are all the stresses which acts on a composite section. First one, stresses due to the pre-stressing force. There will be pre-stressing force induced to the composite section. Obviously, there will be stresses induced by this pre-stressing force. That is first one. Then stress due to sulfate of beam, stress due to sulfate of slab, then stress due to the live load which is acting on the beam. Okay, let me discuss one by one. The stress due to pre-stressing force. Okay, stress due to pre-stressing force. The same principle we have to use here to find the stress due to pre-stressing force. Okay, that is P by A plus P by Z formula. Okay, P by A plus P by Z. Okay, if the pre-stressing force acts at some eccentricity, then this P by Z will come into picture. Otherwise, only P by A. Okay, by this you will get stress due to pre-stressing force. Then next is stress due to sulfate of the beam. Sulfate of the beam you can find it knowing the density of the concrete. Okay, moment of inertia you can find that M by Z, mg by Z if you do, you will get stress due to the sulfate of the beam. Then stress due to sulfate of the slab. Okay, if you assume dead load of the slab, if you can find the dead load of the slab because dimension of the slab is given, density of the concrete is known. Using that you can find the dead load or the sulfate of the slab. Knowing the sulfate you can find moment due to slab load. Moment due to slab load divided by again section modulus will give stress due to the slab, sulfate of the slab. Then stress due to the live load you can find it. Okay, live load moment you can find MQ divided by section modulus will give stress. Combining all the things you will get the resultant stress. Okay, this is the procedure for analysis of stresses for propped construction. Okay, similarly there is procedure for analysis of stresses for unpropped construction. Sorry, this is the analysis of stresses for unpropped construction. Then coming to the analysis of stresses for propped construction, here up to see this stresses due to the pre-stressing force, okay, and stress due to the sulfate of the beam, stress due to live load. All these three steps are same, okay, same as that of unpropped construction. Okay, there is slight difference in finding the stress due to the sulfate of the slab. First, second and fourth step will be same for both the cases. Only the third step, stress due to the sulfate of the slab, will be different. That difference, what is that difference is, the section modulus will take now. The section modulus for unpropped construction, we will take the section modulus of only the beam. Okay, in case of propped construction, we will take section modulus of the whole T section. Okay, the whole T section. Okay, that is the difference. Okay, this first, second, and the fourth steps are same only, similar only. Only in the third step, while calculating section modulus, no, in the first case, we will take the section modulus of only the beam. Here, you will take section modulus of the full T section, because in case of propped construction, it will act as a whole. Okay, it will act as a whole. That is why the full section modulus will be considered while analyzing the stresses due to the sulfate of the slab. Here only the section modulus of beam will be considered, because they will the load distribution is from element to element there. Okay, here it will act as a whole. Okay, as it acts as a whole, the full section modulus will be calculated in the second case. In case of unpropped construction, only the section modulus of beam will be considered. That is the difference. Okay, and you all know, aware of these stress distribution diagrams in the first model. I am not going to discuss it once again. This is the final stress distribution. Okay, after combining all these stresses. Okay, when I solve a problem, then you will understand in a clear way, okay, about this resultant stress distribution. Okay, I think you got some idea on analysis of stresses. Now we will solve a problem and we will solve in detail step by step we'll solve, okay, so that we can get the full clarification. Okay, all of you read this problem. All of you read this problem. Take 2 minutes time. I have given an assignment and a quiz, okay, in MS Teams. All of you submit within Wednesday, okay. Wednesday is the due date given. Those who have understood the module 1 properly, no, they can easily solve these problems, because 70% of the 70 to 80% of the procedure is same only here. Only in the addition and the subtraction there is difference. Finished? Finished the writing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You just go through the problem. A precast pre-tensioned beam, okay, a precast pre-tensioned beam of rectangular section has a breadth of 100 mm and depth of 200 mm. The beam with an effective span of is stressed by tendons with their centroids coinciding with the bottom curve. Okay, I will explain you what is the meaning of this bottom curve. The initial force in the tendons is for 150 kN. Pre-stressing force is given. The loss of pre-stress is given as 15%, and the beam is incorporated in a composite T-beam by casting of breadth 400 mm and thickness 40 mm. Okay, over this beam, rectangular beam of section 100 by 200, there is a slab. Okay, there is a slab of width 400 mm, thickness 40 mm. Okay, for that you write a diagram. Write a diagram. See, there is a rectangular section. There is a rectangular section of breadth 100 and depth 200. Okay, breadth is, depth is 200. Okay, over this rectangular section there is a flange or the slab casted having 400 mm width and 40 mm thick. Okay, over this beam you write a flange section having 400 mm width and 40 mm thick. Okay. Or mm thick. Then it is said that the effective span is given 5 meter. 5 meter is the effective span. Means length of the composite section is 5 meter. Depth is 5 meter. Like this. Okay. This length is 5 meter. Okay. That is span. Okay. Lay load on the beam is given, that is 8 kilonewton per meter square. Okay. The lay load on the flange is given. It is 8 kilonewton per meter square. Means for 1 meter area, for 1 meter area, the load per unit area is given. Okay, load per unit area is given. Especially for slab, the load will be given like that only, per meter square area only given. Over the slab, the intensity of load is 8 kilonewton per meter square. Calculate the concrete, calculate the resultant stresses developed in the precast and in situ cast concrete using pre-tensioned beam as unpropped and the propped. That we will solve. Below you write the given data. Area of beam. Area of beam element. A is equal to B into D. It is given as 100 by 200. So it will be 20,000 mm square. Length is given as 5 meter. Pre-stressing force is given. Pre-stressing force P is given. It is given as 150 kilonewton. And in this pre-stressing force of 150 kilonewton, there is loss of pre-stresses. How much loss? 15% loss of pre-stresses. So the effective pre-stressing force becomes loss is equal to 15%. Therefore, the effective pre-stressing force will be how much? 15% loss means only 85% of this force. 0.85 into 150. Tell me the answer.
127.
Yes, 127.5 kilonewton. Okay, this is the effective pre-stressing force. P is equal to 127.5 kilonewton. While doing the calculation, we need to take this value only, not the 150 kilonewton. Okay. Now it is asked to find the total or the resultant stresses on the section. Okay. As I said, this resultant stresses is inclusive of 4 different stresses. One is stress due to the pre-stressing force, stress due to self-weight of beam, then stress due to self-weight of the slab, then stress due to the live load. Okay, stress due to the live load. First we will find stress due to the pre-stressing force. Okay, first one, A stress due to pre-stressing force. Stress due to pre-stressing force. Okay. What is the formula for stress due to pre-stressing force? P by A, correct?
P by
Yeah. Stresses due to, or the direct stress it is, due to pre-stressing force is equal to P by A. V is 127.5. Area is 20,000. Tell me answer.
$6.375.
6.375 Newton per mm square. Okay. If there is eccentricity, there will be stress due to the moment due to pre-stressing force. You just go through the problem. There is a statement given in the problem. The beam with an effective span of 5 meter is pre-stressed by tendons with their centroids. Okay, with their centroids coinciding with the bottom kern. Okay, let me explain what is the meaning of kern. Here I have written some note in the course material. Okay, this I think in the second model I have explained about the kern. Okay, once more I will explain it now for understanding. See, bottom kern is this trapezium, what I have written now. This is called as kern portion. Okay, the bottom of this trapezium is called as bottom of the kern, and this is the top of the kern. And he said that in the problem it is said that the centroid of the pre-stressing force is coinciding with the bottom kern. Okay, is coinciding with the bottom kern. Here it is acting pre-stressing force, means there is some eccentricity. There is some eccentricity, but it is noted that when the pre-stressing force act at bottom of the kern, then the resultant stresses due to the direct stress P by A and the moment due to the pre-stressing force P by Z will be equal to 0 at the top fiber and 2 times P by A at the bottom fiber. Okay. What we have also solved one problem. I will show you one problem in the model 1. With the same case we have solved. Yes, in this problem. Okay. Here the pre-stressing force, the centroid of pre-stressing force is acting at some eccentricity. Okay, that is at 50 mm eccentricity the pre-stressing force is acting. Okay, at this particular eccentricity, if we find the stress due to the pre-stressing force, see this rectangle represents the direct stress P by A. Okay, P by A, and this diagram represents the stress due to the bending stress due to the pre-stressing force P by Z value. Okay, if you add these two things, what you will get? 4.95 minus 4.95, you will get 0. Okay, you will get 0. Here plus 4.95 plus 4.95 means 2 times the P by A you will get. Okay, 2 times the P by A. So the resultant stress will be like this. Here it is 0, it is 2 into P by A, means 2 into 4.95. Okay, the same kind of problem. Okay, for every section, okay, for every section there will be a kern point where, okay, where if the pre-stressing force is applied on the top fiber, the stress will be 0, and bottom fiber will be it will be 2 times the direct stress, 2 times the 4.95. Okay, therefore in the problem when he says the centroid of the pre-stressing force passes through the bottom kern, then the resultant stresses due to the pre-stressing force will be how much? It will be 2 times the direct stress. The resultant stress due to the pre-stressing force will be 2 times the direct stress. Now for our problem, okay, he said that the centroid is coinciding with the bottom kern. Therefore below you write as the centroid of the cables, as the centroid of the cables passing through bottom kern bottom kern net stress, the net stress due to pre-stressing force will be equal to 2 times P by A. 2 times P by A, therefore 2 into 6.375. How much you will get? How much?
12.75.
Yes, 12.75. 12.75 Newton per mm square. 2 times the direct stress. It is at where? This is at bottom. This is at bottom. Okay, and it will be 0 at the top. Correct? 0 at the top. Therefore, in the theory part of the model, it is the stress distribution due to the pre-stressing force. It is written by assuming the pre-stressing force act at the bottom of the curve only. It is not rectangle, you can see here. It is triangle only. At bottom 2 times the direct stress, at top it is 0. Is that clear, students? Have you understood this? Any doubts? You need any clarification on this?
No, sir.
Okay. Therefore, we have nothing. If he says the pre-stressing force resultant of the pre-stressing force coinciding with the curve means you find the direct stress, multiply by 2. Okay, multiply by 2 and put the answer. Okay, at the bottom multiply by 2, at top you take it as 0. Simple. Okay. Now we have determined the stress distribution due to the pre-stressing force. If you want, you can write a small diagram. Okay, if you want, you can write a small diagram. That is $12.75 at the bottom and 0 at the top. Okay. Now what is next? What next we have to find? Stress due to the self-weight of the beam. This you can easily find. Second one, stress due to self-weight of the beam. B, stress due to self-weight of beam. Okay, stress due to self-weight of beam. This you can easily find. You all know how to find the self-weight stresses. Correct? Find the self-weight of the beam first, then find the section modulus. Okay, moment due to self-weight due to section modulus. M by Z will give stress due to the self-weight. Correct? Dead load of beam. Dead load of beam is equal to WG is equal to what is the cross section given? Cross section given is 0.1 by 0.2. 0.1 into 0.2 into 24 is the density. How much you'll get?
0.48.
0.48 kilonewton per meter is the self-weight moment. Therefore, dead load moment is equal to mg is equal to wl square by 8. Span of the composite section is given 5 meter, correct? Therefore it is 0.4 into 5 square divided by 8. What is the answer?
1.5.
1.5 kilonewton meter. Okay, so to find the moment due to sulfate, m by z is the formula. Now you are supposed to calculate z, section modulus. Okay, to calculate section modulus you need moment of inertia, correct? Moment of z is equal to, we know that z is equal to, or else you can directly use the formula for rectangle, it is bd square by 6. You can use either I by y formula, where I equal to bdq by 12, y equal to d by 2. bdq by 12 divided by d by 2, if you simplify you will get bd square by 6. Okay, b is 100 into d is 200 square divided by 6. Tell me.
It's 6.67 into 10.3.
Yes. Now you can find sulfate stresses, stresses due to sulfate of the beam. Therefore, stress due to self weight of beam is equal to mg by z is equal to, mg is 1.5 into 10 power 6 Newton millimeter divided by 666.67 into 10 power 3. And this is plus or minus. Okay. Tell me the answer. Plus or minus
2.25.
2.25 Newton per mm square. Okay. So in case of sulfate stresses, the bottom fiber will be undergone for tensile stress and top fiber will be undergone for compressive stress. So the nature of stress diagram will be like this, correct? Nature of stress diagram. Here it will be tensile stresses, negative sign, compressive stresses, positive sign, plus 2.25 minus 2.25. Okay. Now two steps are over. Third step is to find stress due to the sulfate of slab. That we'll find now. Stress due to sulfate of slab. C. Stress due to self weight of slab. Okay. Now you find sulfate of the slab first. It is similar to the previous step. Sulfate of the slab will be, who will find the sulfate of the slab? Let me write the cross section, a small cross section here. The thickness of the slab is given as 0.04. Okay, 0.04 is the thickness, and width of the slab is given. Sorry, it is 0.4 for 400 mm, correct? 400 mm or 400 mm is equal to 0.4 meter width of the slab. Okay, and it is running over some 5 meter length, the same slab. Okay, now self weight of the slab, I will denote it as WSL, self weight of the slab. WSL will be equal to, you find load per meter length of the slab. Okay, you find load per meter length of the slab. How to find load per meter length? You just multiply this cross section with the density, you will get load per meter length of the slab, correct? So this cross section is 0.4 is the width, 0.04 is the depth. 0.4 into 0.04 into 24 is the density. If you do, you will get load per meter length. Cross section multiplied by density will give load per meter run of the slab. Tell me the answer.
0.384.
0.384 kilonewton per meter. 0.384 kilonewton per meter. Therefore, moment due to slab weight. Therefore, moment due to self weight of slab is equal to, I will call it as MSL, moment due to the slab weight, is equal to the span is 5 meter length. 5 meter length. Therefore, WL square by 8, that is WSL L square by 8, WSL 0.384 into 5 square by 8. Tell me the answer.
1.2, sir.
1.2, huh?
Yes, sir.
1.2 kilonewton meter. Okay. Now you can find stresses due to self weight of the slab. Therefore, stresses due to slab weight on precast beam. Okay, see, the slab is resting over the beam, correct? So over the beam, the slab weight is taken as dead load on the beam. Okay, over the beam, let me write a small figure. See, this is the beam. Over the beam, there is slab. Okay, the dead load of the slab is 1.2 kilonewton per meter. Cross section of the beam is given, that is 100 by 200. Okay, so over the beam, this is considered as dead load that is acting. Okay, dead load which is acting on the beam is 1.2 kilonewton per meter. That load is that dead load is from the slab. Okay, so therefore the total dead load acting is the total moment due to the dead load on the beam is 1.2 kilonewton meter. That is MSL divided by section modulus Z of rectangular section 1.2 into 10 power 6 whole divided by Z is how much? 666.67 into 10 power 3. Plus or minus, this is also. You are understanding, right? If you need any clarification, you ask me, please. What we have done is we have calculated the self weight of the slab, okay, and moment due to the slab we have calculated. That moment is nothing but the dead load moment on the beam, okay. Therefore, stresses on the beam will be dead load moment of slab weight divided by section modulus. What is the answer?
1.8.
Plus or minus 1.8 Newton per mm square. Okay. Now for this also same stress distribution. One point eight. This is stress due to self slab weight. Stress due to slab weight. Okay. Now C is over. 3 stresses we have determined. The last one is which one? Stress due to live load. Stress due to the live load, that we will find now. Last D. D. Stress due to live load. Okay. And to find stress due to live load, see this live load is acting on T section, correct? Live load is acting on T section. Write the diagram. So over this T section, the live load is existing. The intensity of live load is given. How much it is given? It is given as 8 kilonewton per meter square. Okay. over this slab, the lie load intensity is 8 kN per meter square, means per 1 meter area, the 8 kN is the force. Now we have to convert this load per meter square area into load per meter length. For that, you write lie load on the composite section. Okay, lie load on the composite section is equal to, it is given as 8 kilonewton per meter square. 8 into, you convert that into per meter length. This length is 0.4 meter. Okay. Now you multiply by width of the slab 0.4. You will get a lie load per meter length of the slab. Are you getting? It is given as 8 kilonewton per meter square. Okay. Load per unit area is given. So if you multiply this intensity with the width of the slab, then you will get load per meter, lie load per meter run of the slab. Are you understanding? You will get load per meter length of the slab. 8 into 0.4, how much you will get? 8 4 so 32, I think 3.2 kilonewton per meter. Okay, we have converted this load per meter square area into load per meter length. Okay, load per meter length. The total length of the beam is known. It is 5 meter. Now you can calculate lie load moment, correct? Therefore, the lie load moment. This is WQ, lie load intensity. Therefore, the lie load moment is equal to WQ L square by 8. The length is 8 meter. WQ is 3.2 into 5 square divided by 8. Tell me the answer. This is MQ, lie load moment.
Ten kilonewton meter.
Yes, 10 kilonewton meter. 10 kilonewton meter. Therefore, MQ is equal to 10 into 10 power 6 Newton millimeter. Okay. Now, after getting this lie load moment, we need to find stresses due to lie load. Okay. Stresses due to lie load. To find stresses due to lie load, very important, all of you listen here. You need to take into consideration of this full area of the T section or the composite section. Okay. Therefore, the MQ by Z, that Z section modulus should be calculated with respect to this T section, not with respect to the rectangular section. Okay. See, in the first step, in case A, now for pre-stressing force, you leave it. While finding the stresses due to self-weight of the beam, only the cross section of the rectangular element is considered for measuring the section modulus. While finding stresses due to self-weight of the slab, that self-weight of the slab, I will write here. That self-weight of the slab will act over only this beam cross section. Okay, this self-weight of the slab will act only over this beam cross section. That is why section modulus with respect to beam cross section was taken in the second case as well. Okay, that is 667.67 was taken. Okay, in both the cases. Okay, same 667 was taken. But when it comes to the lie load, lie load on the slab, This live load acts on this whole full T section. Okay, whole T section. Therefore, the section modulus should be calculated with respect to T section, not the with respect to rectangular section, not the 6 what is that value you got? It is not the 666.67. Okay, remember with respect to the live load stresses, you need to take this full T section into consideration. Is that clear for you all, students? Is that clear? You need to say yes or
Yes,
no.
sir.
Okay. Now we will find section modulus with respect to T section. Okay, you have to find it now. To find section modulus, to find section modulus of T section. Okay, it is not rectangle. If it is a rectangle, directly BD square by 6 formula you would have applied and you would have calculated. It is a T section. You need to follow the basic principle to calculate the Z moment section modulus. We know that Z is equal to I by Y. We know that Z is equal to I by Y, moment of inertia divided by distance of centroidal axis. First you find moment of inertia for the T section. Okay. First you find the moment of inertia of T section. To find moment of inertia, you need centroidal distance. Correct? You need centroidal, you need centroid. Correct? Let me take G as the centroid of the section. I'll write the centroidal axis here. Centroidal axis here. What we will do, we will find distance of centroidal axis, from bottom fiber we will find, YB we will find. Okay. Therefore, YB is equal to, here there are two rectangles, one is web, one is flange. YB is equal to find centroid, it will be, what will be the formula? A1, Y1, there are two areas plus A2, Y2 divided by A1 plus A2. Okay. A1 is equal to A1, you take this as A1, flange as A1. You take this as first component, this as second component. Okay. So area of this flange is 0.4 by 40. That is 400 by 40. So A1 becomes 400 into 40. 400 into 40. So it is 16,000 mm square. And Y1, what is the value of Y1? Tell me. What is Y1 here? Distance of centroid of rectangle 1 from bottom fiber. How much it is? This length is, the height of the beam is 200. Width of the beam is 100. Now tell me the value of Y1. Means distance of centroid of rectangle 1 from bottom fiber. 200 plus 40 by 2. So it is 220, correct? 200 plus 40 by 2. 220 mm. Then A2, area of web, 100 into 200. 100 into 200. Y2 is equal to distance of centroid of this web from the bottom fiber. Total length is 200, 200 divided by 2. 200 by 2, 100 mm. This is again 20,000 mm square. By this we'll get distance of centroid from bottom fiber YB is equal to substitute and get the answer. A1 Y1, that is 16,000 into Y1 220 plus A2 Y2 20,000 into 100 divided by A1 plus A2 16,000 plus 20,000. Tell me the answer. If you have got any doubts, you can ask in between. Yes, 153.33 mm. You can round it up to 153 mm. We'll take it as 153 mm. So distance of centroid from bottom fiber is equal to 153 mm. 153 mm. Okay. And distance of centroid from top fiber, YT will be equal to how much? Overall depth minus 153 you do. That is 200 plus 40. 240 minus 153 if you do, how much you will get?
87.
Okay, therefore YT is equal to, because that is also needed to calculate the stresses. YT is equal to 200 plus 40 minus 153, which gives 87 mm YT. Okay. What is next step to calculate moment of inertia? That is equal to I by Y. Y values we got. Now we need to calculate moment of inertia I. I is equal to, what is the formula? BDQ by 12 plus AH square. BDQ by 12. First you take rectangle 1. B is 400, D is 40. 400 into 40 cube divided by 12. This will be given for 16 marks. Okay. If given in examination, it will be given for 16 marks. 400 into 40 cube divided by 12 plus AH square. A is 400 into 40 into H is distance between centroid of rectangle 1 to that of centroid of whole figure. Okay. G1, distance between these 2 points. How much? From top fiber, distance of centroid of whole figure is 87 mm. From the same top fiber, distance of centroid of rectangle 1 is how much? 20. 87 minus 40 divided by 2, or 87 minus 20 if you do, you will get distance between G1 and the G. Distance between centroid of rectangle 1 to that of centroid of whole figure. Correct? Same calculation you write here. 87 minus 40 divided by 2 whole square, AH square, plus, for rectangle 1 it is over. Next go to rectangle 2. BDQ by 12, B is 100, D is 200. 100 into 200 cube divided by 12 plus AH square. 100 into 200 into H square. H means distance between centroid of rectangle 2 that is centroid of whole figure. Okay. G2. Okay. Distance between G2 and G from bottom fiber, distance of centroid of whole figure is 153. 153 minus 200 divided by 2 means 100. 153 minus 100 if you do, we will get distance between centroids. Okay, center of one figure to that of center of rectangle 2. That is 53 mm we will get. Correct? Therefore, 153 minus 200 divided by 2 whole square. By this you will get moment of inertia. How much?
(96.8 into 10 power 6).
Correct. 196.8 into 10 power 6 mm4. Now you got moment of inertia, you know the distance of centroid, you can calculate section modulus now. Therefore, ZT is equal to I by YT, section modulus with respect to top fiber, section modulus with respect to bottom fiber. Say if it is a symmetric section like rectangle, both IB and IT will be equal. Okay, it will be directly divided by 2. Therefore, we will calculate only one Z, I by Y. But for T section, YT and YB are different, so you need to individually calculate ZT and the ZB. Moment of inertia is 196.8 into 10 power 6 divided by YT. Distance from the top fiber is 153, correct? Sorry, 87. And ZB, section modulus with respect to bottom fiber, I by YB, 196.8 into 10 power 6 divided by 153.
(1.28 into 10 power 6).
1.28, yes. 1.26 into 10 power 6 mm cube. Here, ZB,
(2.26 into 10 power 6).
2.26 into 10 power 6 mm cube. Okay. Now you know live load moment MQ, you know section modulus Z. Okay, now you can calculate live load stresses, that is M by Z. Okay, and individually at top and bottom fiber you need to calculate, because you have different values for ZT and ZB. If it is a rectangle, it will be single value. Therefore live load stresses are at top, it will be MQ by ZT, and at bottom MQ by ZB. MQ we have already determined 10 into 10 power 6, 10 into 10 power 6 whole divided by 2.26 into 10 power 6. Sorry, ZT, no, 1.286. Ten into 10 power 6 divided by 2.26 into 10 power 6.
4.4.
Yes, 4.42 Newton per mm square. What is the nature of stress? Compression or tension? Due to live load, the
Compression.
bottom fiber will be subjected to the tension, top fiber will be compression. Correct. Compression. Here, at bottom,
7.77.
is 7.77 Newton per mm square, and tension it is. Okay, write the figure. Seven point seven seven and 4.4. Okay. See, whatever the calculations we have made till now, these are the calculation for unpropped construction. Okay. Now for proper construction, there is some slight difference in calculating self-weight stress due to self-weight of the slab that we will perform now. Here you write the main headline is for proper construction, case A, or case 1. Sorry, case 1, unpropped construction. Okay. Case 2, propped construction. Case 2, propped construction. See, for propped construction, there is difference in calculating stress due to the slab weight only. The remaining calculations are same only. Okay. As I said in the beginning, this first step, stress due to pre-stressing force is same. Okay. Stress due to self weight of the beam is same. Stress due to live load is same calculation. Only there is difference in calculating stress due to the self weight of the slab. That difference is here while calculating stress due to the self weight of the slab. Okay, stress due to the self weight of the slab, we have taken section modulus with respect to the beam cross section. Okay, while calculating for unpropped construction, I'm telling for unpropped construction, while calculating stress due to the self weight of the stress due to the self weight of the slab, self weight of the slab, we have taken section modulus of beam. But for propped construction, we have to take section modulus of the whole T section. How much we have to take? Z is equal to this ZT and ZB are there, no? That we have to take. Why? Because in case of unpropped construction, as I said, the self weight of the slab will act as dead load on the beam. In case of unpropped construction, self weight of the slab will act as dead load on the beam. So section modulus with respect to the cross section of the beam we have taken 666 we have taken. But in case of propped construction, it will act as a whole. It will act as a monolithic element T beam. Okay, it will act as a whole T beam. That is why we should consider the sectional property with respect to the full section. Means whatever the ZT, ZP value are there, no? Those values we need to consider, and we need to find stresses due to the dead load of the slab. That is the difference between calculation for unproper construction and the proper construction. Only there is change in the calculation of stress due to self weight of the slab in step C. Okay. Do you need any clarification on this, students? Do you need any clarification on this?
No, sir.
Okay. Now below, right? Below, right? If the pre-tensioned beam is propped the self weight of the slab of the, this is calculation C. You write side line so that C self stresses due to self weight of slab. Okay, this step. If the pre-tension beam is propped, the self weight of the slab acts on the composite section, not on the beam, acts on the composite section, that is I section. Okay, sorry, that is on T section. Okay, therefore section modulus or section moduli corresponding to T section should be considered to calculate the stresses. Okay, we know the moment due to the slab that we have already calculated in the previous case. We know that moment due to slab weight is equal to MSL. We have already calculated in the unpropped method. How much is the value there? C. It is 0.384 kilonewton per meter is the intensity of load. Moment is 1.2 kilonewton meter. MSL is equal to 1.2 kilonewton meter is equal to 1.2 into 10 power 6 Newton millimeter. Okay. Now, when you consider section modulus corresponding to the composite section T section, you will get two values for stresses, that is at top and bottom. Therefore, at the top, MSL divided by ZT 1.2 into 10 power 6 divided by ZT is 1.286 into 10 power 6. 1.286 into 10 power 6 is equal to, at bottom, stresses due to self weight of the slab, MSL is equal to ZB is equal to 1.2 into 10 power 6 divided by 2.26 into 10 power 6. 2.26 into 10 power 6 is equal to, tell me the answer.
0.53, 0.93.
Yes, 0.53 Newton per mm square. What is the nature of stress? Compression and tension?
Compression.
Yes, it will be compression. And 0.93 Newton per mm square tension. Okay. Therefore, the nature of stresses will be 0.53, 0.93. By 3, 0.93. Okay. So this completes the calculation part. Finally, you need to write the stress distribution diagram. Okay, stress distribution diagram. That I will tell you here. Now for the proper case, I have written the stress distribution diagram. I will go with the answers. First is what? Stresses due to the sulfate of the, stresses due to the precessing force, correct? Stresses due to precessing force is, at bottom it is 12.75 Newton per mm square, at top it is 0. Okay, first you need to write the cross section of the T. Okay, cross section of the T. The first what we have calculated is stresses due to the precessing force, which we got as 12.75 at bottom, 0 at top. Okay, I written 12.75 at bottom and 0 at the top. Okay, that is due to the stress due to precessing force. Okay, and precessing force it will cause the tensile stresses, the compressive stresses at the bottom and tensile stresses at the top. That is why I have mentioned it as plus sign. Okay, then first is over, A is over, B is what? Stress due to self weight of the beam. Here we have the diagram, 2.25 plus 2.25 and minus 2.25 plus 2.25 and minus 2.25. Okay, that I have written. And this height of precessing, height of this stress distribution diagram should be equal to height of this rectangular beam. Okay, rectangular beam. The next is stress due to self weight of the slab. Stress due to self weight of the slab we have calculated. It is 1.8 plus 1.8 and minus 1.8. That is also I have written here, plus 1.8 and minus 1.8. Okay, for unpropped. Okay. Then lastly, fourth case, stress due to the lie load. This lie load, as it acts on full whole T section, okay, whatever the lie load acting on the composite section, it will act on full T section, no? Therefore, stress distribution should be written with respect to the full height of the T section. Remember, student, this is important. Okay, precessing force, it will be there in the beam only. So with respect to the beam height, you will write the precessors, and self weight of the beam, it will be for the height of the beam only. You will write it with respect to the beam height, and weight of the slab will act as dead load on the beam. So corresponding to the beam height only, you will write the stress distribution. When it comes to the stresses due to the lie load, we need to write the stress distribution corresponding to the full depth. Remember, okay, whatever stress distribution we have written now, plus 4.42 minus 7.77. It should be written with respect to the full height. Okay, full height. Okay, understood, students? Have I understood this? You want me to explain once again? The stress distribution. Please reply. You want me to explain once again?
Sir, how to calculate X values?
Yes.
X value agila denga sir.
Yes, sir, I will tell you. This much you understood, no? These diagrams you understood, no?
Sir, last one explains.
That X I will explain. Writing the diagram you understood, no? Calculation part I will explain. Still it is there.
Yes, sir.
You want? Okay. Now Coming to now, you are. I'm clear with this. All these 4 diagrams. I hope you all understood. After writing the diagram, okay. So when you write stress distribution for the full height of the T beam, okay, then you need to calculate the resultant stresses at top of the beam, top fiber of the beam. You need to calculate this length, okay, this length, right? This length, how to calculate is by using the similar triangle rule. Okay, by using similar triangular rule, we will calculate this x, means stress distribution at top of the beam. Okay, how to calculate x is, I have considered rectangle, the right angle triangle 1. This right angle triangle I have considered, and one more right angle triangle, the full right angle triangle I have considered. Okay, so these two right angle triangle are similar right angle triangles, right? Similar right angle triangles. So by applying the similarity rule, okay, what I have done is, here you can see x is the unknown. Okay, means base width of the right angle triangle 1 divided by base width of the full right angle triangle, that is 4.42. No, it is not there. This base width of small right angle triangle divided by height of small right angle triangle, x by 47 is equal to base width of larger right angle triangle and height of larger right angle triangle. 4.42 divided by 87. 87 is the distance of centroidal axis that we have identified. Okay, if you do, you will get the value of x. Is that clear, Arjun?
Yes, sir.
We have taken the properties of similar triangles. This small triangle and the full triangle, both are similar triangles. So base width of smaller triangle x divided by corresponding height is 47. Okay, 47. How you got 47? I'll go to the figure. Means this side. Okay, total 87 minus depth of this beam 40. If you do, you will get 47. That 47 I have written here in the diagram. Okay, that 47 I have written here. Okay, but in that way you will get height of the smaller right angle triangle. Okay, applying this similarity rule, you will get x is equal to 2.38. Okay, so here it is 2.38. Okay, then coming to the resultant diagram, at the top there is no any stresses, only 4.42 is there. You write 4.42, 4.42. Then with respect to the combined stresses, means the stresses corresponding to the full section, that you calculate 2.38, only 2.38. Then corresponding to the stresses at the top of the fiber, the top of the beam. Okay, 0 plus 2.25 plus 1.8, 0 plus 2.25 plus 1.8. If you do, you get 4.05. Okay, initially top fiber stresses over the top of the slab, then stress due to the full section 2.38 plus 1.8 plus 2.25 plus 0, means stresses corresponding to the top of the beam. Okay, that I have written. Then here we add all the things, 12.75 minus 2.25 minus 1.8 minus 7.77. If you do, you will get 0.93 as resultant stress at the bottom. Okay, in this way you need to write the diagram of the resultant stress. Okay, this is for unpropped condition. For propped condition, these three diagrams will be these two diagrams will be same. Okay, stress due to the pre-stressing force, stress due to the self weight of the beam will be same. But when we calculated the stress due to the self weight of the slab, what we have done? What we have done is we have taken section modulus of the full section. Okay, 1.286 in 10 power 6. Full T section we have taken. Therefore, while writing stress distribution diagram for unpropped condition, for stresses due to the slab height, you need to write it with respect to the full height. Y means Z, what we have, so whatever we have substituted, we have substituted with respect to the full T section. Okay, here we have written with respect to the beam height only. Here we have to write corresponding to the full height. Okay, because here we have taken Z of means section modulus of full section. Okay, 0.53 at the top and 0.93 at the bottom, corresponding to the full height. Corresponding to the full height. This x distance here also in the same way, whatever procedure I have followed now, here same procedure I have followed here. Okay, x by 47 is equal to 0.53 divided by 87. Okay, x is equal to 0.28. So in the resultant stress diagram, this 0.28 and 2.38, 0.28 plus here, okay, this length and 0.28 plus 2.38 here, 2.38, whatever the value you get, 2.66 that you have written. Then the stresses corresponding to the top fiber of the beam, only it is 0 plus 2.25, then increase it to 2.25, and here 1.79, same value. Okay, 1.79, same value. 1.79 means the summation of the bottom stresses. Have you understood, students? The stress distribution diagram, how to write? Any doubts? Please ask. Any doubts here? Students?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. To this, I'll stop the class.